Hello everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Eunice. In this video, I'll be sharing with us how I made this beautiful corset bustier gown you see on the right side of your screen. The down part of this gown is a pencil skirt with a draped basque waistline, and I have made a detailed video on how to cut and sew this skirt part, and it is already up on my channel. And for the upper part also, I have done the pattern drafting video on how to draft and cut this upper part, and it is already up on my channel as well. So this video is the sewing video of the upper part. So if you haven't seen the video on how to draft, cut and sew the skirt part, and you haven't also seen the video on how to draft the upper part, I will drop the link to those videos in the description box. So please do well to click on the links in the description box or also in the comment section. You'll find the links there so that you can watch and understand how we came about all these pieces we're going to be working with. Okay, so please, before we get started, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please click on the subscribe button to subscribe. Ensure you put on your notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. And also share this video, leave nice comments, and please like this video. So if you find this video helpful, please also let me know in the comment section. Thank you, and let's get right into the video. Okay, these are all the pieces we're going to be working with. As you can see, I have transferred my patterns to fabric and I've added all the necessary allowances. On the main fabric, I ironed hasty and I doubled it. On the lining, I ironed paper stay and doubled it. You can iron hasty on both lining and fabric. It is still fine. In my case, I decided to iron paper stay to the lining. So on the main fabric, I have my hasty and I doubled it on all the pieces. I doubled it on all the pieces to give my fabric that nice stability. And this is our center back. I cut the center back on fold. One will serve for the right and the other will serve for the left. This is because the center back is going to carry our eyelet panel. So I cut this on fold. So I have two pieces here. Okay. So we also have the back yoke. You can see our back yoke. I cut the back yoke with lining. I used a skin tone net as the lining. So the main fabric is lace, and then I cut the net for the lining. That's will be using it to turn the neckline. Then I also use this skin tone net to cut what we'll be using to create our button loops. As you can see, this is it. We're going to have buttons at the back of the keyhole. So I cut this. We'll be using it to create the button loop. And then this is also our front yoke. Can you see? So I cut the front yoke in a way that at the center front side, I'm going to have the scallop part of the lace on the front side. So this is it for all our patterns. So without wasting time, let's get into the sewing part. Okay, before we start sewing, this is our modesty panel. As you can see, I cut it on fold. So the part that has the dart on our modesty panel, that's the side we're going to be turning out the modesty panel from. So I'm going to just stitch the two upper parts, as in the up and down, apart from the folded part. So I'll turn it out. We will understand when we start doing this. Okay, so to start stitching our pieces together, this is our center piece. I'll place the side piece over the center piece, making sure that the underbust point is well aligned. Okay, I'll stitch on half inch from the down part and take it all the way up. So I'll do the same thing on this side. I'll stitch on half inch and stitch all the way up. So I'm going to repeat the same thing on the lining. I'll place the side piece over the center piece of the lining, making sure to align the underbust as well. And then I'll go stitch them. So I'll go stitch the lining and the fabric. Then I'll show us the next thing to do. Okay, so this is me stitching the bustier and I'm stitching on the half inch sewing allowance I added for joining the center piece and the side piece. So please, you want to make sure to stitch on the sewing allowance you added. Don't stitch less or more. So if you know you cannot eyeball your half inch, just mark it. Use your chalk or pencil to mark it so that you will stitch it very well and your stitching will be even. You don't want one side quarter and the other side half, okay? So after stitching, you can see I first of all notched the underbust point and I notched the curved part. So this is what it looks like. So I'm going to repeat the same thing on the lining. I'm making sure to pin the underbust point so that it doesn't shift. You don't want to let it shift at all so that everything comes out very well. So first I placed the lining over the side piece of the lining over the center piece and I pinned the underbust point. As you can see, I've taken off my pin and then this is me stitching it. So for me, I can eyeball my half inch. So if you cannot eyeball it, please make sure to mark it. As you can see, I've also notched the seam allowance and everything is coming out beautiful already. So I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Then I'll take this to my pressing table and give this a very nice press. I'll press the seam lines open and then I'll show us the next thing we're going to be doing, which is the bust caging. We're going to cage the bust, okay? So I'll go do that and come back and show us. Okay, so this is our bustier. As you can see, I've ironed the seam lines open. Can you see this is the lining? Can you see how it is standing on its own? It is actually standing on its own. And this is the main fabric. You remember I'm using a crepe fabric. Can you see how tight and the underbust is? I pressed the same lines opened and I also ironed haystay to the bust area just on the main fabric. You can see my haystay stopped on the bust line and you can see our bustier standing on its own. You can see it is not padded. I didn't pad it. It's just my fabric, but you can see it is already standing on its own very well. Very well. So if you contour the underbust correctly, you're going to have a good result as this one. Okay, so now I'm going to drop this aside so that we can cage the bust. So to cage the bust, you can see I've already marked this line here on the underbust line. I marked exactly on the underbust line. Now to draw the curve we're going to have on the side here. I'm going to come in by 1.5 inches, which is the seam allowance I added. And you see this is 1.5 inches. Then I'm going to curve the line I have on the underbust to meet the side. And you see, so this is going to be the side of the bust. I will do the same thing on the other side. I'll curve it to meet the 1.5 here too on the side. So the base of our boning will be on this line I just drew now. I'm also going to have one on the bust point. I'm going to have one regilin boning there. I'll have one on this line again. And then this is a sweetheart neckline I have here on this outfit. So I'm going to sew the boning in a way that it will not interrupt our sweetheart neckline. So from the center here, just watch carefully what I'm doing. From the center of our outfit here, I'm going to have one and I'm going to curve it to follow that sweetheart shape. So from the center front or the upper part, I came in by 1 inch. Can see I'm curving it like this, just 1 inch, 1 inch below the neckline. Can you see? Or below the upper part. Can you see the shape I have? So I'll have one from the side and then to come down to the middle here. So I'll also have the same thing on the other side. So from the middle side, that's from the center front here, can you see? I'm marking my 1 inch and then I will also curve it to come down to the center and then I'll curve it to go to the side here. Just watch carefully my lines and you'll understand it. So I'll have one bone. This is so that it doesn't let us still maintain our sweetheart neckline. Okay. And then I'm going to also have one bone in that will cross over the bust point. And you see, so it will come from the side here and then it will cross over the bust point. I can see. So I have one exactly at the bust point. This is to support the bust area. And then we'll also have one here. You see? So this is it. So it will cross over from one side to the other. So this is what we're going to have. Okay. So, and if you want again, if the person is on the busty side, you can still have one more. But when we start sewing, I'll decide if I still want to have one more. Okay. So let's get to the sewing machine so that we can start sewing. So here we are. Now this is my boning. Can you see how the boning is curving downward? So I'm placing it the way it is curved. That's the part I'm placing on the fabric. Remember, I'm sewing on the lining, and this is the wrong side of the lining, of course. Can you see? So, and to stitch it, I left half inch. As I left this piece of half inch from the starting of our fabric. Don't start exactly at the beginning of your fabric because you won't be able to fold that side. So just take note that I left half inch space, okay? So I'm just going to stitch this boning and navigate. I'm going to turn following the curve. Just do this gently. If you do this gently, you're going to have a good result. So I'm going to make sure I'm stitching on the line I marked. And once I get to the end, I'll cut out my excess boning. Now you can see I stitched the first side. So I'll stitch on the second side of the boning. So I have the one at the base already stitched. Then next I'm going to stitch the one that will cross over the bust point. Can you see the way I'm opening the bustier? Please open it up so that you don't have anywhere gathering or packing. You want to open it up very well. Okay, I'll stitch on the other side of the boning. Watch carefully the way I'm opening up my fabric. And then to stitch the side that is going to form the sweetheart neckline, that'll go around the neckline area. I'm going to also, can you see my fabric? I'm opening up the fabric and I'm stitching on the curved line I marked. So at this point, I'm just going to turn carefully. And here I have it. I'll trim out my excess and then I'll stitch on the other side of the boning. You see? So just take it one step at a time. And then I'll stitch the other side. Here I just measured out the boning I need and I cut it with extra 1 inch so that I don't have a bulk of my boning working with it. That's so that the boning I have, the back of the boning is not pulling it down. That's just basically what I am trying to say. So I'm stitching the other side of the curved boning. That's the one on the sweetheart neckline. And you see how I'm opening up my bustier very well. You see? So when you open up, this will allow the boning to follow the shape of the bustier. So it will help you maintain the structure you want to have on the bustier. Remember, our bustier already has a nice structure. Okay, so now stitching this boning on it will just maintain the structure. And you see, so this is me trimming out my excess threads and this is what it looks like on the inside. I'm still going to have one boning that will run over the bust line. I just brought it out to show us what we have right now. So if you want to leave it this way right now, you are even okay. But for me, I'm going to have one running over that seam line. That's over this same line here. That's where I joined the bustier together. And I'm also going to have one running over it like this. So this is just a simple boning technique. You can see how the bustier is standing already very, very well. So even if you want to stop here at this point, it is fine. But me, I said I'm going to still add bonings. I'm going to have one on the bust line, that's on the seam line, and I also have one running from one side to the other. So I'll do that and I'll show us what we have. So to stitch the one that will run over the seam line, make sure that you are stitching exactly on the seam line. Open it up and stitch on the seam line. So that one is going to actually help the bust, like give the bust that nice natural curve. I hope you understand. So this is it. Make sure you're placing the boning correctly. Just place it and then stitch on the same line. Can you see? So this is what we have. So just trimming out my excess bonings and then I'll stitch the other side of the boning. And here we are, even without ironing. Can you see how nice the bustier is sitting? Okay, so this is me just giving it a good press, just press it so that it's well molded. So the more this bustier is already coming out very well, it doesn't even need too much ironing. That is the truth. It doesn't need so much ironing. Everything is already coming out very, very well. You can see it for yourself already. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to place my fiber. Okay, so here this fiber I have, it's about 1 inch fiber, and you see it's not too thick. So this depends on how thick yours is. I don't even think it's up to 1 inch. So I'm just going to measure the size I'll be needing to flesh up the area. For this fleshing, you can use your hasty. You can just use layers of hasty, and it will still give you that nice feel, that nice soft feel. Okay, you can use your hasty to do this, but if you have fiber, also feel free to do it. So you can see I've just placed my fiber and I'm cutting out the quantity I'll be needing. So to do this, you will also need your hemming gum. So the hemming gum will help gum the fiber because the fiber does not have a fusible on it. It's not fusible. You need to use your hemming gum to make it stick. So if you have the big hemming gum that comes in about 8 inches or 10 inches, it will be easy to just do this. But what I have is 1 inch hemming gum. So I'm just going to have to cut strips and fill up this place with it. Okay, and then I'll place the fiber. So as you can see, I'm measuring the hemming gum I need. You want to just measure, you want to just place it so that it goes from one end to the other, and then I'll place several of it before I place the fiber over it and then give it a good press. You will need steam iron for this because when you steam press it, the steam is what will activate your hemming gum so that it can stick. It can stick the fiber to the bustier. I hope we get that. Okay, so as you can see, I've filled up all the areas I need the hemming gum to be, and this is me giving it a good press. So you can actually notice that our fiber is now looking transparent. So this is because by the time you press it, it will reduce the size of the fiber, that's to become thinner. So this is just it. So after giving it a very good press, I'm going to trim out the excess fiber I don't need. Can you see I have excess? I'm going to trim it out even on the neckline area. So please just make sure to follow this shape and shape it well so that it follows the right shape, okay? And then press, and press again. Make sure that every point as you are pressing that your bust arm is under the bustier so that you don't make this flat. Okay, so this is me retrimming and trimming out all the excesses. So you don't want any thickness on the neckline area. This is so that when you stitch the neckline, it can lay really flat. So this is it. So next I'll bring in my hasty. I'll be using hasty to cover up the fiber. This is optional, but this is very good. If you decide to leave the fiber like this, there won't be any problem. But the truth is when you place your hasty, it gives you a neater finishing, and then it just has a way of securing the fiber. So I will advise you to do this also when doing yours. You see, so this is the amount of hasty I need. So our hasty already we know that it has is fusible, and you can when you press it to stick. So I place the side with the gum on the fiber side, so while pressing with my steam iron, so this is making it stick to the fiber. So right now I'll just go ahead and take out my excess too, the excess of the hasty. I'll trim it out, but on the neckline I won't be trimming out the hasty or the neckline. I want it to be there. This is just hasty. Remember, I've trimmed out the fiber on the neckline area, so our hasty is flat enough. Right now I'm done ironing hasty to our bustier, and can you see this is what it looks like. So by laminating it with our hasty, everything is sitting intact. So please take note that on the neckline here, it's just my hairstay that got to the neckline, not the fiber. So you want to be very careful so that it's not too, if you allow the fiber get to the neckline, it will be too thick. So when you turn the neckline, it will not relax well. So for me here, it's just the hairstay. So you can see it's quite light, okay? So, and this is what it looks like when we place the main bustier, that's the main outfit. Can you see? Can you see how it is coming out very well? So now we set this aside. It's now time for us to stitch bonings to the lining. I'll be stitching bonings to the seam lines here. So I'm going to have one here. Can you see? One on this part. I'm also going to have one here, and then I'll have one at the center here, exactly at the middle here. After stitching this, I will later use plastic boning to give support to our regular boning, because we know our regular boning is not very hard. So when I use the plastic boning to give it support, it will not fold when the person is sitting. Okay, so I'll stitch boning one here, one at the middle, one here. You can also add, this person is not very big, so I don't want to do too much bonings. So that's that for the front boning. So now this is our back piece. Can you see that these are the linings, the left and the right side of the lining? So this is the lining. Can you see that I've stitched the modesty panel to one side of the lining? This is the side that will carry the modesty panel. I place the modesty panel on the right side of the lining. Of course, this is the wrong side of the lining. So I placed it on the right side of the lining and I stitched on 1/2 inch this way. So now let's do this. Let's place it this way, because this is how the lining will be. The lining will be facing the main fabric. Let's bring the main fabric in. Let's also place it this way. Can you see? This is, and the part I notched is the part that will be joined to the eyelet panel. Can you see? So this is for this side, and this one is also for this side. You see? So this is what our modesty panel will look like. So it will come out from the under and then go to the other side. Can you see? So we have the modesty panel attached to the lining. So now this is our eyelet panel. And you see I've already stitched boning. I stitched one exactly here from the middle, away from the middle. You can see the fabric is folded into two. I stitched one exactly here at the middle, just away. I placed the boning, making sure that the side of the boning is touching the middle, and I stitched on this side. I gave a space of 1/2 inch. This point is where our eyelets will sit. Okay, so that space, this space is where I'm going to be placing my eyelets, and then I placed another boning by the side. So this 1/2 inch I have left here is what we'll be using to join the eyelet panel to the back piece, and that's exactly what I have done here also. For this eyelet panel, I'm also going to use my plastic boning to give support to the regular boning so that it does not fold. Okay, so with that being said, so this is for this side and this other one is for this side. So let me show us how we're stitching the eyelet panel. Already you can see on this side I have stitched the modesty panel. So now I'm going to open up the boning, the eyelet panel, I beg your pardon. The side with the boning is going to be the one on the lining side, and this side that is not with the boning is the one that will face the fabric, or that will be with the fabric. Okay, so I'll open it up like this, and then the side, this is the lining side. I'll place this right side facing right side like this. And pin. And you see? So this is what we have. Can you see? So now I pin the side of the lining. So this other side, I'm also going to flip it this way and pin it this way. Right side now, the main fabric facing the right side of the other side of the eyelet panel. Can you see? So we now have it this way. You see that we have stitched our eyelet panel now to the center back. So this is the part where we're going to, so you can see the space we have inside. This is inseam finishing. So I'll repeat the same thing on the other side as well. Okay, so I've also pinned the other side, and see, so this is what we'll have on this other side, and this is what we have here. So having done that, the next thing I'm going to do is to bring in the yoke, the back yoke. You can see that the yoke, I cut net for it, I already showed us, and I use the net to turn it as lining. I also use the net to create the button loop, because we're going to have button on this other side, and this is it here. Okay, so this yoke is for this side, and this one will go to this side. So let me use this side to show us how to sew the yoke. So I'm going to place the yoke like this on the right side of the fabric, like this, and then I will stitch. I'm first of all going to stitch it only on the fabric. So I will stitch here on half inch. After doing that, I will stitch here on half inch. Okay, I didn't mention also on the back piece I'm going to just have one boning line here. I'm just going to have one, just one. I'm not doing too much here, so just one. So I'm going to place the boning to start half inch below the, this is the step, the starting point, this seam allowance. I'm leaving half inch seam allowance, but the boning will get all the way down. So let's cut out the boning. So can you see? So I'm going to have one, just one here at the back, and I already have two at the center back where we have our eyelets. So the other side will also have one. So I'll stitch it. So I'm coming down by half inch because this half inch is for turning the upper part. You can also see that the bonings on the modesty panel, I came down by half inch also. Okay? So now let's continue with this part. So I said I will stitch the yoke only to the main fabric. So after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to now turn this like this. This is the middle, this center front here. I'll turn it this way and then place the right side facing right side and stitch. And you see, I'll stitch on that half inch that I said is my sewing allowance. So I'll stitch on that half inch, but I will stop 2 inches away from this end because we're doing inseam finishing. So I'll have to stop 2 inches away from this because we're going to be sewing lining to lining, fabric to fabric, so that we don't, if we sew all the way to the end, we'll not be able to turn it. So I'll have to leave some space, about 2 inches here, so that I can use it to shape them at the sides, so that we can achieve our inseam finishing. So I'll go do that and come back and show us. Okay, as you can see, I'm done stitching the bonings to the front piece. And then this is our main front piece. And I've also stitched the yoke to the neckline. So if you have watched the video of the pattern drafting, you will understand why the yoke is not starting exactly at the middle. So this is what our yoke looks like. And for the back, as you can see, I've also stitched them. And you see, I've stitched the boning I'm going to have at the center. I've done the same thing here also. So this is what we have. So the next thing we're going to do is to place the lining. I'm going to be stitching lining to lining, fabric to fabric. Like I already said, that we're doing our inseam finishing. So we're going to be stitching them together. Can you see how I opened up the main fabric, the back piece and the front side here? You can see I'm placing right side of the front facing right side of the back, that's of the back side piece. Okay, and then this is it also here on this side. I'm also pinning right side of the front side facing the right side of the back side. I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. So I'm going to pin it, then at the where I have the yoke, I'll be leaving a space of half inch at that part because we want to turn our yoke neatly. So when stitching, I'm going to stitch on that 1.5 inches I added as my sewing allowance. I'll stitch on it and then stop half inch away from where I have the yoke. Can you see? This is where I have the yoke. So I'm going to start stitching half inch below this point. I won't start stitching from exactly the beginning because we have our yoke there. I hope that makes sense. So I'll stitch from here down to the hem and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Then I'm going to place the lining, right side of the lining facing right side of the lining. That's right side of the lining of the front facing the right side of the lining of the back. And I'll equally stitch it on 1.5 inches, which is our sewing allowance. Can you see how I place them? So I'm going to stitch it all the way down to the hem. I'll do the same thing on the other side. So I'll go do all this and come back and show us the next thing to do. As you can see, I'm done stitching the side seams and I've pressed the seam lines open, and this is what we have. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to turn the neckline, the upper part here. So I'm going to place them right side facing right side. Can you see? And I'm flipping in the yokes. Just make sure the yokes are placed in between the lining and the fabric. So you can see that half inch I left at the armhole area, that's at the yoke area. Now you can see that this is now going to make it easy for us to sew. So that half inch, I'm just going to open it up and place the half inch on this side. That is our seam allowance now. So if we had stitched it close, it will not have the seam allowance there at the armhole. This is self-explanatory. When you are doing it, so long as you come down by that half inch, you'll understand exactly what I am talking about. So I've pinned it, and now I'm pinning to the center front. I want to make sure that all the points are well aligned. The side seams, make sure that they are all aligned, and then the center back is also going to be aligned. So I'll fold it there. So we have everything sitting intact. Can you see? So this is our center back, and you see how I'm folding it into two, and this is it. So I'm going to take this to my sewing machine, and then I will stitch on half inch. The half inch I left at the upper part already. You can see my bonings, all the bonings started half inch away from the starting point. I came down by half inch. So that space I have is my sewing allowance. Okay. So I'll start stitching from one side to the other side, or you can do this. You can stitch from the middle to one side and stitch from the middle again to the other side. Just make sure that the sweetheart neckline comes out very well. And here we are. I'm done stitching the neckline, and I also stitched hemming gum to the neckline. So the stitch is on half inch, the actual stitch is on half inch. Then I stitched the hemming gum also, but I stitched it on quarter inch. I stitched it away from the half inch I stitched. Okay, so this hemming gum, having it on the neckline, will make it easy for us, so that when we are pressing, the neckline can just sit perfectly well. You don't want to finish and then you start placing hemming gum inside again. So by stitching it there, it is already there. So as you are pressing it, the heat will activate the hemming gum, and your neckline will just seal itself up. Okay, so I'm going ahead to turn it out to the right side. Make sure to push out every nook and cranny. Make sure that everything comes out very well, and place your bust ham underneath and give it a very nice press, just as I'm doing. So you can see that the armhole area, yoke came out very beautiful at the hem there. Okay, so right now I've gone ahead to join the shoulders together, the front and back shoulder, and I've also stitched my sleeves to the armhole. I did the set in sleeve method. This sleeve is just a basic sleeve. It's just a free sleeve. It's not a fitted sleeve. It's like a buba sleeve, just free. I used That's now what I'm saying is that if her armhole measurement is 6 inches, I'm just giving an example now. I added like 2 inches to it just to make it free. You get, that's just what I did. And this is what we have. So, and I also went ahead to top stitch the center back, the part where I have the bonings. Can you see? I just made a top stitch on the bonings. All I did was to fill the boning, and then I made a top stitch on the right side because the boning is on the lining side. So now this is my plastic boning I'll be using to create support for the Regilene boning. Okay, so first you need to file the plastic boning. Just file it, and this is our normal nail file we use for our nails. You can use your sandpaper or whatever you have. Okay, so just file it so that it's easy for you to insert it in. So I'm going to insert it into all the parts where I have my Regilene boning. Okay, so now this is what I'm doing. So this is where the boning stops. I'm going to get my marker and mark the point where the boning stops. And you see, so I fix in the boning. I'm just going to identify where it stops, and then having identified it, I'll pull it out a little and then go in by 3/4 of an inch. You can go in by 3/4 of an inch or half inch, depending on what you want. But me, I'm going in by 3/4 of an inch and I'm cutting it out. So that means the plastic boning is shorter than the Regilene boning. This is so that we can sew the bias. That's what we'll be using to turn the down part. If you leave the plastic boning to be the same length as the Regilene boning, you will not be able to sew your bias there. We're going to turn the hem here. So, and you know, we can't sew on our plastic boning. So this is why I'm making sure that whatever the length I have is, I'm going to reduce all of them by 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to do this on all the sides. On all the sides I have my boning. Okay, I'll do it for on all the sides, and then I'll show us the next thing to do. Okay, I forgot to mention this. For the bonings on the front piece, I stitch close the upper part. This is so that when you push in the plastic boning, it will not come out from the other side. So you have to stitch on the two sides of the boning and stitch close the upper part of the boning. The down part of the boning is the one at the hem. So the upper part of the boning is is the upper part I'm talking about that I stitched close. So I just stitch that part close so that when you insert the boning, it will not come out, it will not poke out from the other side. I hope you understand that. So as you can see, I've fixed my boning to all the boning channels, and here I have my bias I'll be using to turn the hem of this outfit. So I cut a long strip from the crepe fabric I'm working with, and the width of the strip is 1.5 inches. So I'm going to place it from the back first, from the back side of the fabric, and I'll stitch on about quarter of an inch, then flip it and fold it then and make a top stitch on the right side. And you see, so when making that top stitch, this part now, this is the starting point. Can you see this side, this half inch I left here? I'm just going to make sure to tuck it in first before folding it. And you see what I'm doing. So I'll go do exactly what I have shown us now. I'll top stitch it, and then I'll come back so that we can fix our eyelets. Slide, I'm done hemming the down part. You see how neat it is? And this is what we have here on the reverse side. Very, very neat. So the next thing we're going to do is to create the eyelet openings. So here I have my eyelets already that I'll be using, and then I also have the other side of the eyelets. Okay, so I'm going to use this to create the, and then I also have my rivet machine, and then I have my soldering iron. The soldering iron is really hot now. I've on it already. So I'm going to be creating holes. I'm going to be marking the spots where we have our eyelets here. So to do that, I'm going to start measuring. So from this part to the down part, I have 11.5 inches. From the top to bottom, I have 11.5 inches. So to create the first eyelet hole, I will come down by ½ inch. So this is where the first one will be. So from this point, I'm going to measure 1¼ inch. 1¼ So this is 1¼ another 1¼ inch, another 1¼ inch, another 1¼ inch. So I'll keep marking 1¼ inch till I get to the down part. This is the last one. So you can see this space is still there, 1¼ inch. So this is where the last one will be. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 eyelets here. So a very simple way to puncture the hole, I'm just going to hold them together like this. And you see, just hold them together. So whatever hole I'm puncturing on this side will reflect on the other side. Make sure to hold them together very well like this. Okay, so I'm going to insert it. And you see that because it is hot, can you see how it just passed through? And then I'm going to create the next hole. Just be careful so that you don't burn. You have to be very fast with this. Just puncture. Can you see? I'll puncture very fast. Can you see that? You don't need to do too much. Just let it puncture, and that's all. Once it touches it, because it is hot, it will just puncture the hole. And then this is the last one. Can you see that? So I have my hole punctured. So this one that has not reflected at the back here. So you can see I punctured the two sides at the same time. Okay, so I already have the dice for this size of eyelet. I have it already fixed here. So you need to get the actual size of the size of the dice must match with what you have. They come in sizes. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So this is what we have. So you can see I have my holes neatly punctured. So now to fix our eyelet, this side of the eyelet is the part that will be here, that will be seen. So now as I punctured this has dried up, so it's a bit strong. So you will need your scissors to just like create the hole. That will make it more relaxed. Okay, don't make it too wide. And you see, by using my scissors, it has just opened the hole. So you just need it to make the hole more flexible. That's just it. Okay, so after doing that, now I'll place the eyelet cover here on this side. and then I will place it over the dies this way. And then I'm going to press it down. Okay, so you don't even need too much strength. Can you see that? So I'll do the next one. I'm just going to widen the hole a bit. Okay, just a bit. You see? So this is it. Can see it has come out here. So you don't need the hole to be too wide. Just make sure that it's small so that it's tight. You want your eyelet to fit into it very well. You can see how this one is. So I'm just going to pass it through. So I place the other side of the eyelet. That's the cover side, okay? And then I'm going to also hit it. Do you see? So this is it. So I'll create this third one. Just widen it a little. If I even struggle with this, it will just pass through because this part is not too hard. I didn't sew boning to that side. The one that is going to stretch you is the one that has a boning on that part. That one is really stressful. It stresses me, so I don't like doing it because you'll struggle to fix the eyelet into the hole. So if anybody knows how it can be made easy, even when you have your boning at the middle there, just let me know in the comment section, because I usually find it difficult to place it. It stresses my hand. Okay, so as you can see, I'm done fixing the eyelets, and this is me lacing the back of the corset. So first you want to get the midpoint of your rope. I used my doll face satin to create this rope, so it is really long. It's about 150 inches long. You want to make this rope as long as possible because there's going to be space on the back. You don't want it to be short, okay? So I'm lacing it from the inside. I'm inserting it from the inside. The first part, I made sure to get the midpoint, and then that's the first two. I started from the upper part. I did it from the inside, and then when I got it centralized, then I started fixing it from the inside. Can you see how my hand is coming from the inside? That's just basically it, okay? So this is it about the lacing. So I'm just going to drag the rope. I tied it at the tip there at the end. So I'm just going to drag the rope here. If you want to create a more snatching effect at the waistline, okay, you tie here at the waistline. But of course, this is a mannequin. She's not as big as my client. So that is why it's not looking tight on her. So, and this is our skirt that will be attaching to this. You may decide to wear this skirt just on top of it. So long as it is your measurement, it will fit well. But in this case, I'm going to be tacking it. I want it to be a complete gown. I don't want it to be a skirt and a top, okay? So for it to be a complete gown, from the hem, I'm going to mark 4.5 inches upwards. Remember that the half length, I added 4.5 inches to get the corset length so that you pin it exactly on the right point. So at the sides here, I'm pinning to that 4.5 inches. I'm doing the same thing here. And you see, I'll also do the same thing at the back. So you can see how the basque waistline has formed itself. And you see, so it will just form itself in front because we have already draped it. So I'm just using my chalk to mark this side because that's the point where we'll be tacking it. So I'll have to take this off the mannequin and tack it very well. As you can see, I am done tacking the skirt to the bustier, to the corset bustier. And you see how beautiful it turned out. Coffee brown is really a beautiful color. It came out very well, you know. Imagine a caramel skin on this coffee brown. It came out beautiful. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you learned something from this video. If you did, please make sure to like this video, share this video with your friends, and do not forget to leave a nice comment. And please do not hesitate to subscribe if you haven't done so. Hit on the subscribe button to subscribe and ensure you put on your notification bell so you get a notification every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.